guys to this week's video. This time we're going to be doing something super interesting. I have one of my good friends and amazing mortgage professionals, Mr. Hector Guadarrama. Don't worry, he'll have a moment to introduce himself. And today we're going to be talking about a very popular topic, which is house hacking. We get questions like this all the time. We've been doing a lot of consultations, so we thought, why not make a video just for you in case you've been thinking about house hacking. Maybe you don't know what house hacking is. Well, if that's you, then definitely stay tuned. Am I awake or am I dreaming? So as you can see on the screen right now, most people come to us with the goal of financial freedom, time freedom, or some type of liberty. So that's what most people achieve when they decide to house hack. So that's the main goal. And let's go ahead and dive right in. So if you guys don't know about me, you can take a look at my other videos on my channel. I'm a former flight attendant with American Airlines. I love to travel, which is what I came up with, your coast to coast lifestyle with eXp Realty. Currently, I'm in Seattle, Washington, making moves to Las Vegas. I'm from Miami, Florida as well. So always excited to get other people from other marketplaces on. And Hector actually was one of those people from another marketplace that he'll touch on here in a few moments. I'm an animal lover. And of course, as I said, I'm passionate about helping people when it comes to real estate and achieving their dreams, which is typically financial freedom and time freedom. So that's a little bit about me. Now, Hector, I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Yes, of course, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on the video today. I'm looking really forward to our presentation and getting the education out there for the good people of the world. So who am I? My name is Hector Guadarrama. I am a mortgage loan professional with CrossCrountry Mortgage. I specialize in the Seattle, Washington area, as well as the northern Utah market. That is where I came up. I'm a self-proclaimed audiophile. I enjoy in my very little spare time to do some audio production, and I'm also a proud dog dad. I have 2 dogs. They're both just lovely creatures, and I love them. I also enjoy the good occasional craft brew, be it a beer or a bean. So I am an enthusiast for both of those, and my passion in this job comes from educating my clients. When my clients come to me, often they have no idea what they're doing. It's something that we don't learn a lot about. So my passion comes from really giving my client the tools they need to succeed when it comes to purchasing a home.
Awesome. Beautiful. Yeah. And that's why I love working with you, Hector, because you and I think a lot alike when it comes to helping people through the whole home buying process and really turning it into what we want to achieve, which is an income producing asset and not a liability at the end of the day. So making sure it's a smart choice. And not a lot of mortgage professionals think that way, nor real estate agents. So I'm really glad and honored to be able to be partnered with you. So thank you again for doing this video with me.
Thank you for having me on board.
Absolutely. Team Hector all the way, right? It's just like,
let's go.
What is that? Twilight? Team Hector. All right, so I won't bore you with the details of my past, guys. However, I did come from higher education. I love learning about things. I love learning about cultures and languages. So that was my past background, was linguistics. And I did go to Spain for a master's degree in bilingual education. So I love working with people from all various backgrounds, which, by the way, Hector, if correct me if I'm mistaken, I think you are Spanish speaking too, right?
I am bilingual.
Yes. So we've yet to practice with each other. So maybe, sidebar on that later. However, we can work with people who are Spanish speaking or for, any background for that matter. And one of my favorite quotes, as you'll see here on the screen, is we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. So that is one of my favorite mottos. I take that into my business. At the end of the day, Hector, you and I, we don't get paid until we close on a deal. However, it's far more than just getting somebody into a house. Would you agree?
100%.
Yeah, it's about making sure it's the right decision for them and their family, financially and logistically too. So it has happened to me in the past when going under contract with a home and it's not the right fit. As the real estate professional, I always make a point saying that if you're not comfortable, there's some reason, something going on, then we definitely want to address that. And if we can, pull out of the deal. So just so that everyone knows that that's how we do business here. So enough about us, let's dive right in. How in the world may we help you today? My favorite tagline as well, so you can remember how to pronounce my name. So once again, going into our unique process, which is making sure that your purchase is an asset and not a liability. And for my bigger pockets people, I think you'll appreciate that, because yes, a home is traditionally thought of, well, as an investment. However, a true investment is meant to make you money, not cost you money. So even if you're free and clear of a mortgage, technically you have expenses to pay, such as property taxes, etc. And that's why I love house hacking, because now you have the opportunity, two birds with one stone. Everyone needs a roof over their head. So why not turn it into a true investment when you have roommates or tenants renting from you at the same time, while it being your primary residence? So that in a nutshell is what house hacking is, if you're new to the concept. There's many different styles. We won't cover that today. If you have questions, as always, drop a note in the comments and we can speak offline further in detail. And of course, these are just a few of the past clients that I've worked with in the state of Florida. And my goal at the end of the day, and Hector's as well, is that at the end of this, you loved working with us so much so it's been a Ritz-Carlton experience that you want to do business with us again and again and refer your friends and family. So at the end of the day, it's our goal to become friends, okay? Not everybody wants to become friends with a real estate agent, unfortunately. However, the offer is always there on the table, okay? So Jonathan's a great friend of mine. We've done 2 house hacks together. Kathy and German, they bought their first home with me last year in Hollywood. And Jamila, same thing. She was, her husband was VA background. And so it's been amazing to be able to work with all types of home buyers, both house hacking individuals and regular VA individuals, first-time home buyers or seasoned investors. And then we always have more that we're going to be adding now in other states here in the United States, Washington state, as well as Nevada and future states. Now, getting started with the process, main points I want to cover during today's video, maybe not everything on this list today. However, finding the right house hack, why multifamily is not the only option for house hacking, how to find deals in the marketplace, agency relationships. Yes, every state's a little bit different. Here in the United States, every state's almost like its own country with different laws. And then the state of Florida, it's one of the few states, I should say, that does allow for an agent to represent more than one side. So some call that a dual agent, for example. We'll go into that later. Hector's going to talk about the financing piece and then a couple of search tools and the transaction process and closing day. So that's the goal of today's video. Finding the right house hack, as you can see on the screen, there's a lot of things to consider, not just the features of the home, whether you like the home or not. When it comes to a house hack, you really want to think about future rental potential as well as current rental potential if you're going to be hacking it in the, while living there. So for instance, it's a duplex or even a single family home with a ADU, which is an accessory dwelling unit, or a guest suite, mother-in-law quarters, also known as an efficiency studio in Florida. You want to think about location. That's the number one thing you can never change, is going to be location, obviously. The condition of the home is something you can always work on. So first and foremost, location is going to be most important in my opinion. If you're from the Bigger Pockets community, you're going to understand Class A, Class B, Class C neighborhoods, Class A being the most affluent neighborhoods, typically very high price, high values. Class B is a little bit more affordable typically, and then Class C can get into some sketchy parts. And if you're a female like myself, and especially if you're single, those are things you want to consider when you're purchasing a home. And also in terms of what type of tenants would you be attracting, so on and so forth. Families, for example, if you're going to be attracting families or that's your main tenant pool, you might think of school districts, also local landmarks, job opportunities, traveling nurses, or, even flight crew if you have an airport nearby, or law enforcement. Those are different types of individuals you may want to market to. And then, of course, you're going to have to think about price and how that boils down to your numbers at the end of the day. So let's not forget, it's going to be about cash flow or potential appreciation if you decide to sell in the near future. Also, cash out refinances, which Hector can talk about in the future if you want to leverage your equity, which everyone has a bunch of equity right now. That's amazing. Another thing to think about could potentially be square footage. So if you have kids or a significant other, and you may be thinking about having a roommate situation, you're going to want to have that space to yourself, I'm pretty sure. So most people prefer to have privacy. So a single family home with in-law quarters might be nice because you still have that privacy or that division. However, if you're looking at a townhouse or even a condo situation, a split floor plan and square footage is going to be key. Also, not to mention rental restrictions, which we can always talk about as well. And then number of bedrooms and baths, obviously the style. So in the state of Florida, it is very common to have issues with humidity, right? It's, it's a very tropical climate, hurricanes, termites, I mean, a bunch of stuff going on. So that reflects in the construction type, which is typically going to be CBS. It's a type of concrete block, essentially, unlike here in Seattle, Washington, where the construction type is typically wood frame due to earthquakes, et cetera. So it's a regional difference, something you definitely want to consider based on the marketplace you're looking in. There's also roof pitch. And if you have questions about that, I have a great homeowners insurance guide I can provide to you that will talk about how roof pitch and age of roof will impact your insurance premiums and ultimately your monthly cost. Not to mention also age of the home. That's a big one. It's always my recommendation that newer is probably going to be better. However, in some marketplaces, it's really tough. So you just want to make sure you get that full home inspection. I wouldn't stop at a general home inspector. I would get specialists. I would get an HVAC specialist, a roofer, electrician, plumber, the whole 9 yards, especially if it's older than 1990. 100%. Especially in Florida, where it's very hot, AC is very important. You want to make sure the HVAC is in great condition as much as possible, or if not, that you are budgeting appropriately. Same thing with plumbing, which we could talk about as well. As homes built in the 1950s in Florida typically have cast iron pipes. They're supposed to have a life expectancy of about 50 years. However, often they, can go past that, and it's okay. You just want to make sure you get that sewer scope done with the plumber to be sure that it is something you want to move forward with or not. And then once again, thinking about what's in the area so that you can attract high caliber tenants. All right, a lot of information I'm covering. This is the first time I've done a one-sided consultation, so I feel like I'm talking forever. So hopefully I'm creating some value. Hector, tell me, am I boring you?
No, not at all.
Not
Not
at
at
all.
all.
Okay,
Every time I hear this, it's fascinating information.
Yeah, and it varies marketplace to marketplace. So this is really going to be based on house hacking in Florida. If you have questions about a different marketplace, please do reach out and drop a note in the comments if you have questions about a different place. So getting into agency relationships. So I touched on this just briefly earlier. In the state of Florida, legally, whenever a real estate agent is going to be representing more than one side, let's say both the buyer and the seller, legally they have to step down into what's called a transaction broker relationship. And what that means is the agent's going to take more of a referee role and facilitate the transaction. So obviously, if they're representing opposing parties, you can imagine that they don't really have any one side's best interest at heart, which is the unfortunate thing. And then the other agency relationship is going to be buyer's agent. You can expect this person to have really like a coach relationship with you, an advisor, confidant. That's my goal when working with home buyers, is that I take that role. Now, in the event that you might be interested in one of my personal listings, we can always talk about that, because sometimes it is advantageous if you are open to that, because then I may be able to negotiate commission with the seller and save you and the seller money ultimately. So it's not my favorite method, however, it can be done. And then also, if you are interested in one of my company's listings, then that's something that we would have to discuss as well. I could still personally represent you as your confidant. However, my brokerage would have to be considered a transaction brokerage at that point. So as always, with this type of relationship, we do require an agency agreement to make sure that you and I are both clear, with our expectations and working together. And if ever we have a disagreement, that we can always come to terms on that. And if not, part as friends. That's ultimately the goal. Okay, to make sure everyone's crystal clear working together, just like Hector and me when we work together, right?
Exactly.
And so before I hand over the stage here to my friend Hector, I want to quickly talk about something that I think is important, and that's using a bank versus a mortgage broker. I've had a lot of people come to me, they've already been pre-approved by their bank, credit union sometimes, and that's great. Sometimes they really offer you great incentives or like closing cost credit. However, in my opinion, I always prefer and recommend working with a mortgage broker, because somebody like Hector, they're going to give you their personal cell phone number. You can reach them on weekends, after business hours. Of course, be respectful. I wouldn't say call them at midnight or 1 a.m. However, it could be done, in a 911 situation. So, unlike right with the banks is, you're lucky to get the same representative if you call the bank, again, probably only during 9 to 5. And you're just not going to get that, again, Ritz-Carlton experience, which I think is super important in a large transaction like this. So that's my piece I want to say about bank versus broker. 1000% recommend always go with the mortgage broker. So Hector, take it away.